Keep that vibe. Rubber side down.
Right there, ladies and gents. Welcome to Hippo-Drones, long-term review of the KTM 390 Duke 2017 model. Now this bike is relatively new, and in some countries it is still waiting to come out, I believe. Certainly some of the countries that follow my channel. So I've done almost 3,000 miles on this bike now, and I wanted to run you through some of the bits and bobs of the bike that I like and dislike. Now, I've mentioned in the 600 mile review that there's issues with the bike. A lot of them haven't been resolved yet, and this is partly due to crap weather, but it still has some issues. So I'm going to play a couple of little other videos that I put together in time travel, just to show you what this bike is like in different scenarios, so you can see how it performs on motorways, in town, on the country back roads, and then after that I'll give a little summary as to what it's like to own one of these. So, what's this KTM 390 like for munching miles? Well, it's not too bloody bad really. On a motorway, yeah, having no wind protection, it's a bit cold, blowy and hard working speed, but at legal speed, 70 mile an hour, this thing's an absolute delight to ride. It's not a problem at all. Now, I've done plenty of long journeys on this bike since getting it. Currently we're on, I think, yeah, nearly 2,500 miles, and I've only had it a couple of months. So yes, it's munching through the miles quite quickly. The riding position on the motorway is pretty comfy. The thing that is the problem, especially this time of year, is your fingers. Your fingers get damn chilly. And that's the same on any bike really, but a fared bike could give you a little bit of wind protection over your fingers, and that helps massively this time of year. A friend of mine, he's got the previous version 390 Duke, and he's put the hand guards on his, and he says that's absolutely fine. That sorts the wind blast out on your fingers completely. Then all you need to do is have a warm pair of gloves just to survive the actual cold without having to worry about the wind blast. So yeah, munching miles on this is an absolute pleasure really, although 70 mile an hour we are sitting at 7,000 RPM. This basically does, in top gear, 10 mile an hour more for every 1,000 RPM you increase it by, which means that you're revving the tits off it effectively at 70 miles an hour. So if you can cope with the buzz box, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem. If you are going to be doing longer journeys as a regular thing, I mean, like seriously concentrating on motorways all the time, then I don't know if this is the bike for you, because I'd not want to be sitting at 70 mile an hour on this all day long. It's a bit buzzy. It's alright when you're hooning and cutting through the corners, but when you're sitting at a constant speed, it's not much fun at all. I'd much rather have an engine that was a lot less relaxed at this speed, and that's why, if you're going to be munching miles, CC is your friend. It's not that you can't do it on smaller bikes, it's just, it's nicer if you've got a bit more cubes in your engine. So if you are after a smaller bike to munch some miles on, then I'd probably, although it's not really the same class as this, I'd probably consider the MT-07 or the FC-07, depending on what country you're in, as to what that one's actually called. I've not ridden it myself, but having that extra CC, an extra power, an extra torque, mean that that's a far better bike for munching the miles on, and also not too expensive either. So what's the KTM like for filtering? Bloody marvellous! Couldn't ask for a more nimble bike to duck and dart through the cars. I do find the wing mirrors are a little bit at wing mirror height of other vehicles, of vans more, and those big fucking stupid 4x4 cars. I do find that the wing mirrors make the width a little daunting. I don't actually think that they're any further apart really than the wing mirrors on my Guzzi, but because they're on the ends of the handlebars, you kind of trust where they are better, whereas my hands aren't in the same places where my mirrors are on here. So filtering through, I do find sometimes, I've never hit anything, but I'm over cautious with it. I kind of think that I need to move out of the way of wing mirrors and stuff as I'm going past, that I don't actually need to. So yeah, filtering, an absolute breeze, both on the motorway and in town. Around town it's even better because you can duck and dart left, right through the traffic and stuff, and it really doesn't, it's almost as if it was designed for that. And that's what I bought the bike for. I bought it to commute on. Is he going to change lanes? Is he more interested in talking to his passenger? Oh, he's talking to himself. Like me! But yeah, filtering is great. So what's the KTM 390 like for commuting on? Well, it's pretty damn dandy. It carves through traffic, no problem at all. Whether that's on the motorway speeds, as we've seen in the earlier clip, or through rush hour traffic in town. Now, I've timed my journey particularly well this evening, and there is not really a huge amount of traffic for me to carve through for you. But maybe on the return journey in the morning, I'll show you cutting through the rush hour traffic. Now, I've had some clutch issues with this, and I'm still sort of working through them at the moment. I'm sure between myself, my dealership and KTM we will get to the bottom of it. But other than that, it's an absolute pleasure to ride, except for the problems with the dashboard that I've been having, which you can't see at the moment because it's dark, and to be honest, because of the temperature, it's possibly not going to be an issue at the moment. But yeah, commuting on it is an absolute breeze. The bike's so light and nimble, it just, you feel like you're on a push bike almost when you're riding in town on it, and it's so relaxing, and it takes all the stress out of it. You know, if you have to put your foot down in a hurry, it's not going to be a problem. You're going to be able to put it down and keep the bike balanced. Not that it's a particularly tall bike, but for those stumpy like myself, it is nice to have the confidence to get your foot down without any dramas. Riding at night on the bike is no problem at all. The headlight is really bright and very clear, and gives good visibility of the road ahead. In town, yes, it's nice and visible so people can see you coming and all that sort of stuff. No problems there. And one of the things which I particularly was sold on by the 390 is their fancy headlight. I think it just looks absolutely awesome. But due to the UK rules regarding having your headlight on all the time when you're riding, it means that you don't actually get the fancy headlight look thing that you're supposed to get from the bike with its side lights on. It's a shame, but it doesn't matter. I still think it looks very good. I'm still having problems getting my dealership and KTM, well, primarily my dealership as they haven't reported it to KTM, to acknowledge that the rear brake on this is absolutely useless. I'm working on that. That's not going to be a problem. We will get to the bottom of it, and I will get them to accept it and get them to fix it. Yeah, 30 mile an hour, this thing rides along absolutely lovely. 40 mile an hour is pretty damn cool too. You're not sort of screwed around with different rev ranges that just don't sit nicely at our speed limits. The ones on this are okay, to be honest. At 70 mile an hour you are buzzing it a bit at 7,000 RPM in top, and that can get a bit draining, and I'm sure the engine doesn't thank you for it either for multiple hours at 70 mile an hour if you're doing some miles. 50 mile an hour is pretty nice too. So all UK speed limits it's absolutely hunky-dory at. It has no problems holding speed at 30, 40, 50, 60 or even 70 mile an hour. But like I say, 70 mile an hour is a bit buzzy, so if you are going to be commuting longer distances at national speed limit speeds, you might want a slightly larger CC bike. I've done so many miles on this. I've done 300-mile round trips. I've done multiple long journeys on it, all in one day, and it does cover the miles no problem at all, as long as you're not in a huge hurry when you are on the motorway speeds. Above 70 mile an hour, it becomes a little bit of a chore to ride it. So yeah, short commutes, it's absolutely fine, and the odd long journey, it's absolutely fine too. I personally don't have a problem munching miles on this bike, but I think other people might find it a little bit boring. Right, catch you in a bit. So riding this bike in the rain is a bit shit, to be honest. Our bike does it fine, that's no problem at all, but since putting the RNG tail tidy on, it roosters up my back, and I end up getting almost as bad a muddy and wet back on this as I do on my Guzzi, which has no rear end at all. Not quite as bad as that, but almost. It's one of the reasons I've kept the full-size number plate on the bike, because I didn't want it to be any worse. Supposed to be snowing today. If it does, I don't think we're going to get very much settling because it's so wet now. I believe the earlier KTMs had a bit of a problem with slow speed fueling, and I think it's down to the throttle position sensor with the fuel injection and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if this, with its, because this is ride-by-wire throttle on this, I don't know if it's different from the original KTM 390 Duke. And also, I never really rode this without the Leovint's can and decap, so I also don't know if this one had any snatchiness, particularly on the throttle at lower revs, because I went effectively straight onto the Leovint's, whatever you call it. But yeah, this thing, it balances incredibly nicely, so if you come up to a set of traffic lights and there's a queue there, the lights are still red, you can sit there and just either put the brakes on and hover with your feet on the pegs for quite a long time without feeling like you're going to have to put your foot down. It's such a confidence-inspiring bike. And again, my only gripe with the way the bike rides is the clutch. I just can't get the clutch in a position that feels nice. It's I've got the slip sorted, so the relaxed position of the clutch with my hand off it is now in the right place, but the clutch in is a little bit just not quite right. It's not exactly where I want it. I want the clutch to have shut off, or to be disengaged fully when it's all the way in, and to release a little bit later. And I think because I've had to put so much slack in it, I just haven't got that there. I think if I had bigger fingers, then I could reach the span out a little bit and that would sort that out. So I'll have a play with the span adjustment on it as well to try and remedy that. I had kind of hoped that my ride home from work this morning was going to involve a little bit of traffic, but there isn't. There's no traffic at all in the route I'm going, so I'm not able to really show you it filtering, but I've got plenty of other videos where I'm filtering, so you can see that it does it easily. As it's still an ongoing problem, I thought I'd just draw your attention to it while carrying out this long-term review of the bike. As you can see, the clocks still massive amounts of condensation on them, really bad, and you can't see it in this light, but actually there's water running down the inside of the glass there as well. It's all pretty shitty, really awful design, and I'm assuming that it was just down to them saving a couple of pence, couple of pence on their design to make this waterproof, and KTM could have had themselves a real awesome bike. But it's little things like that, the attention to detail, that really lets this thing down. What we've got going on here, don't want to do it like that. Oopsie. Hopefully everyone's okay. But yeah, so the bike will be going back shortly, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get them to replace the dashboard for whatever it is that they've done on the redesign, if they have done a redesign. Just thought I'd share that with you while carrying out this long-term review. This review's being carried out over multiple rides to show the bike in very different situations, so I occasionally will be doing a lot of time travelling backwards and forwards to make this video fit together. But no, that's this bit. Shitty dashboard. There, whatever. You got any condensation? Yeah. So what are these bikes like around town then? I hear you ask from afar. Absolutely fantastic. Perfectly balanced, you can sit a set of traffic lights without putting your feet down, no problem at all. Clutch is really nice, so nice and light, should I say. There is problems with the clutch, but it's nice and light, so it doesn't tire you out when you use it a lot. The bike handles amazingly. The tyres that it comes with now are fantastic, and you can chop and change direction just at will. You can just think, I want to go in that direction, and the bike will go that way, which is such a good feeling to have. It brings you so much confidence in the way you ride. Cutting through traffic is fine, just like on the open road. You have wing mirrors to contend with. In town, obviously, the cars are parked a little bit closer together when you're filtering, so yeah, you do have to watch that you don't smash any wing mirrors. But cutting through the traffic, it's a breeze, and it's got a really good turning circle as well, so you can get to a car and then just go, oh damn it, it's blocked up ahead, and then you can just stick a right angle turn on, get between the car to your left of you, and dart up the inside of the car in front of you. Yeah, fantastic. It's a town bike. This is just delightful to ride, and it's got enough poke to push you to wherever you want to be without really needing to worry about any of the cars getting in your way, but not too much power to kind of intimidate when you're going along. I mean, like some of the sports bikes, like the GSXR 750 for example, I use that as an example because I had one for a while. They're great for filtering within reason, and the reason is that you've got narrow bars, so you can get between the cars. They're low as well, so you're not sitting there worried about bashing wing mirrors so much. And they do handle very nicely, but they've got that poke. And also being an inline 4, yes, they've got a lot of go, and actually probably around the same amount of torque as one of these down low in the rev range. This hasn't got a lot, but they've got that power that builds, and that means you just have a little bit less control when doing the tight twisty filtering. That's one of the reasons I wouldn't recommend an inline 4 as a city bike, just because a single or a V-twin possibly is far more suited to it. I don't know it.
Which is the next one?
See, look at that. Although I did have my feet down to start with, I could do a turnaround on this bike almost within the length of the bike. It's just bloody awesome. And that was completely feet up on the pegs while hovering there at the spot. And it's just got that punch to get you past the traffic, to get you ahead of the queues when you need it to as well. Moving away from the town now and heading a bit more suburban. and it's not really a bother here either. The camera on my helmet is just at my chin height, so it doesn't reflect truly the bird's eye view I have of where everything is. So you can add sort of 6 inches, I guess, or so, maybe a bit more up higher to the view, so it would be sort of more like this is how I'm seeing things. Not that that gives you anything to be relative against. It would be ideal to have done that against a car. Ooh, pulls away in second just about from a hill start, so it has got a little grunt, very little, but it's still there. I guess that's the joy of a bike that weighs so little, so you can get away with being in the wrong gear occasionally. But speed bumps are not a problem. This is a serious review, honest. Suspension's really squidgy, which means that bumps and stuff, it's fine. I think if you were serious about doing track days and things like that, you'd possibly want something a little bit firmer. And I think the people that use the RCs racing, they change the springs and stuff like that to give them better suspension and better suited for the weight of the rider and stuff. But as a road bike that you just throw your leg over and either go off and have a giggle, it's just damn awesome. Being so light and low powered, being stuck in traffic isn't really a problem either. You just sort of sit there and wiggle the way along and stuff like that, and it's cool. It's cool. It's not a stressful bike to ride. It's very relaxing. This is quite a steep hill, and it was absolutely fine in third gear. I could have even carried on here at third gear at this speed. It doesn't really affect it at all. The fan is very noisy. You can probably hear that right now, and that does cut in quite often, but the heat bars pretty much always stick at around 50%, which is absolutely fine. And now the fan's turned off. Grip, 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 grip. Forward. This is cool lanes. These are cool lanes. I need to get used to throwing myself out a little bit more when it's like this, so I can keep the bike more upright and use my body weight to get the bike to turn. But I feel right plumb leaning off with the bike belt upright. Yeah, you've still got the same lack of grip that I've got. It's really difficult when you're running a bike in, even when you're not doing a necessarily hugely gentle one. You're still going to be less ham-fisted to time your overtakes. On a small cc bike, it's just so difficult. I keep looking down at my handguard and thinking my indicator's on. The trouble with these, they rev out so quickly. They're already incredibly low geared, so there's not really an awful lot that can be done to improve the acceleration on these, unless you can give them a fat dollop more torque through tuning. My thoughts on this bike? It's blooming awesome. It's an absolutely incredible town bike and country lane machine. It's perfect for scootling along the roads like I've just been on, or cutting through traffic in town, and those sorts of speeds. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's such a nimble, flickable, light little motorcycle. On the roads that we've just been on, yeah, you'll be better off with a 500cc supermoto or 450cc supermoto if you want to be a hooligan and have proper funds. But you could still have good funds on one of these. It's just that other bikes would be better at it. I think the design of this bike, its perfect environment is in town as a commuter bike. It just does that really, really well. The bars are a little bit wide for my liking for cutting through traffic and stuff, but other than that, it's absolute delight to ride around town. If it had a better rear brake, then it would be perfect for that. I think in town you really need to have good brakes. The front's fine. The front stops this bike really well. Even with the ABS on, I don't find that restricts the amount of breakage I have. I'm sure I could possibly stop harder and faster sometimes, but it's when you get to that point where you go beyond grip, that's when you want the ABS there. So I'd much rather, when I'm not under pressure to brake really hard, to have a little less braking because it cuts in a bit more quickly. So yeah, what would I say about this bike? If you want to ride around town, absolutely perfect. If you want to go on the motorways, it'll do it, but it's not ideal for it. You're sitting at 7,000 RPM to do 70 miles an hour or thereabouts, and that's only 3,000 RPM from top. And yeah, it's a bit noisy, buzzy and that, and I don't think the engine would like doing that day in, day out if your commute was over distance and involved motorway speeds. If you want a fun hack that's cheap as chips, get one of these. They're just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. If KTM could sort out this problem with the dash, where it all mists up, steam condensates up and stuff, that would be awesome. I've actually checked my friend's bike up ahead, and his clutch has been pieced together, his clutch cable has been put together in exactly the same way that P&H was saying mine was done incorrectly. Now I'd like to know from KTM how these clutch cables are supposed to be assembled, because I have no adjustment left on mine now. I've only got 2,900 miles on this bike, and I've got no adjustment left on my clutch. That says there's a problem. I'm not hooning around like an absolute retard on this bike. Yeah, okay, I'll have a silly 5 minutes every now and again, but I'm not putting this through mega stick. It's a commuter bike, and it gets ridden pretty sedately on the commutes. And a clutch, it's just a clutch. It should just sit there, and when it's not in use, it should be pushing against its buddy and gripping each other to bits. And then when you're using it, it's swift. I'm not like sitting there slipping the clutch megally or anything like that. Yeah, there's something wrong with the clutch on these bikes. And to be told that mine is assembled incorrectly, and then to see another bike from another dealership have it assembled in the same way that was supposed to be incorrectly on mine, does make me wonder if maybe P&H were giving me a little bit of a fob off, or didn't quite understand how it was supposed to be, or indeed there's a real problem with the quality control at the factory where the clutch cable is installed, because this is 2 bikes I've seen now where the clutch cable has been installed in the way P&H told me was incorrect. Be interesting to see if my buddy up ahead of me has any problems with his clutch as his bike beds in, and if that starts to slip, then we know that there's something wrong with these bikes. If his starts to slip in a few more miles time, then we know that there's possibly an assembly problem where his one's been assembled incorrectly like mine was. Whereas if his just carries on working as normal and mine starts to slip again, I know my bike has a problem. And I'm not going to tar all bikes with the same brush until I can see that this is a problem that's happened on several bikes. I can't keep adding to this video. I need to get it made and put out there. Nearly 3,000 miles done on this bike now, so I'm going to call that a wrap on this long-term test, of the KTM 390 Duke 2017 version. I do hope you found this informative, maybe helped you make your mind up whether you would or wouldn't go for the bike. Yes, it has issues, but they can be forgiven if they can get them fixed. I haven't got mine fixed. Do stay tuned to my channel. At some point when I get mine fixed, I will give you an update. But anyway, ride safe, take care, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.
Keep that bar. Rubber side down. You know, you gotta keep that bar. Rubber side down.